reagent in organic chemistry, which in one way we could say is a boon to mankind, because we'll see it's such an instrumental reagent in carrying out different conversions, such that, as I said, we would virtually start playing around with different compounds out of different reagents, which provide us this flexibility of carrying out the different conversions. This happens to be one of the most significant. I'm sure you would have heard about it. We're going to talk about Grignard reagents. Now, I would have introduced this term to you way back in the preparation of alkanes. I expect most of you to know that Grignard reagent or Grignard reagents would belong to a class of what's called organometallic compounds, belongs to the family of organometallic compounds, and is commonly represented as RMGX, where X is a halogen, R could be an alkyl or aryl group. Is represented as RMGX. Now you realize that because you have a metal magnesium in the organic compound or attached to carbon directly, she was very particular about this fact, that it's not about the presence of metal only. I hope you recall, it's not about the presence of metal, it's about the fact that the metal needs to be attached to the carbon directly. Now I repeat, this R could be an alkyl or aryl group, this could be an alkyl or aryl group, and because magnesium as a metal is directly attached to carbon of the alkyl or aryl group, it belongs to the family of organometallic compounds. Alright. Named after, the guy, a French chemist who came up with this reagent and figured out, Victor reagent is the name, a French chemist. And later on, as I said, this reagent was found to be so useful, particularly for synthetic usage, that he ended up getting a Nobel Prize in 1912 for this. Out of the different reagents we use in organic chemistry, I repeat, this is one of the reagents which brings in a lot of flexibility, a lot of convenience, and a lot of ease while playing around with organic compounds. Carrying out a reaction using Grignard reagent is so many times called a Grignard reaction. Good thing about this is it's very reactive. Now because it's very reactive, the reaction occurs in decent time and the yield is very high. Plus it's equally good as an aryl magnesium halide or alkyl magnesium halide. We'll see that utility front also. One reaction of Grignard reagent which I tell you while discussing preparation of alkanes is the following. And I don't limit it to one particular reaction. Generally you find it under the head hydration of Grignard, but I don't limit it to hydration. I tell you that it could be a Grignard reacting with any compound containing an acidic hydrogen, and then I define acidic hydrogen as the hydrogen which is attached to nitrogen, oxygen or triple bonded carbon. Nitrogen, oxygen or triple bonded carbon. So we don't limit it to its reaction with water or ROH or ammonia or a 1 degree or 2 degree amine. I hope you are following me. In a 2 degree amine even, you will have a hydrogen attached to nitrogen. Now hydrogen attached to nitrogen, oxygen or triple bonded carbon, I repeat. Now for a hydrogen to be attached to a triple bonded carbon, it has to be terminal alkyne. Say it's an RC triple bond CH. Now this hydrogen attached to a triple bonded carbon, nitrogen or oxygen, most of the times a book or a source would tell you about hydration of Grignard. But we will not limit it to one particular reaction. We will know that this will react with any compound containing acidic hydrogen, which is about hydrogen attached to oxygen, nitrogen or triple bonded carbon. And in Grignard, I hope it's going to help. It's very reactive. Grignard is going to be very reactive. And the more we know about Grignard, we would explore that it's going to dissociate as R minus and MgX plus. See if it helps in recalling the fact that magnesium as a metal is naturally supposed to be positive. Yes or no? Now this would help you. This bond is going to get polarized towards the alkyl or the carbon chain and would dissociate as R minus and Mgx plus. I repeat, magnesium as a metal is again likely to bear the positive charge, and in the process what you get from a Grignard right away is a carbon ion, or you would want to call it a nucleophile. So Grignard would right away provide you with a nucleophile, a desired nucleophile, and because it's going to be very reactive, it's going to be, as I said, instrumental in carrying out so many conversions. But before I talk of any of the reactions involving Grignard, and chances are I would have spoken the same language while introducing this first reaction of Grignard in alkene, I must have told you, down the line we end up knowing so much about Grignard reagent is, at times we forget basic trait of Grignard. Now this is the basic trait of Grignard. This is the basic reaction of Grignard. That the moment it finds a compound having acidic hydrogen, it takes that hydrogen. See, if it's R minus, it will be looking for hydrogen. H plus, acidic hydrogen, H plus. Now I repeat, this has to be the basic trait of Grignard. We'll learn a lot about Grignard reagent, but after knowing so much of Grignard, we'll not want to forget that this is the basic reaction of Grignard, that if it finds a compound or a group bearing acidic hydrogen, it will take that hydrogen and RMgx with that hydrogen will right away become RH. So all of it would produce methane. I might have even told you about the byproduct, and we keep it simple, we keep it very simple. We realize it's the acidic hydrogen which it requires, and this compound without that acidic hydrogen is going to stick to MgBr, and that's going to be the final product. So CH3 takes H plus from any of them, becomes CH4, and the part left after losing that hydrogen would stick to MgBr and would be the byproduct of the change. So yet again you don't need to mug up anything. After hydrogen, if it's OH, it's going to be MgOHBr. After hydrogen, if it's RO, it's going to be MgORBr here. Yes or no? In case of ammonia, after hydrogen, if it's NH2, the byproduct would be MgNH2Br. In RC triple bond CH is a terminal alkyne, which again furnishes that acidic hydrogen, converting the Grignard to an alkane, you realize all of them would give you methane, all of this would give you methane, and when it comes to the byproduct, it's furnishing the acidic hydrogen and the rest of it would stuck to MgBr. So the reaction of this terminal alkyne with CH3 MgBr is going to be methane, plus after losing this hydrogen, the rest is going to stay with MgBr. So it's going to be C triple bond C R. So I've kept it fairly simple for you. And let's not forget, before knowing more about Grignard, that this is going to be the basic reaction of Grignard. The moment it finds acidic hydrogen, it grabs that hydrogen and becomes an alkane. Might also be looked upon as a limitation of working with Grignard. Because suppose you want to use Grignard for a particular reaction, and you want to retain Grignard for that particular reaction, I repeat, this might act as a limitation. In that case, you will want to ensure that you are keeping the Grignard or the rest of the material away from compounds containing acidic hydrogen. Because the moment it gets a group or a compound bearing acidic hydrogen, Grignard will be converted to alkane, and I repeat, if you want to use Grignard for a synthetic process, it would be like losing Grignard. Yes or no? So this happens to be the basic character of a basic reaction of Grignard. At the same time, this is one limitation you always have to come across while working with a process involving Grignard. You can't use Grignard if anywhere you have a group or a compound bearing acidic hydrogen. Because right away, before doing anything else, before thinking of any Grignard reaction, you got to think about its tendency to take hydrogen and become alkane. In one sense, it's like losing Grignard. Got me? Now the most popular reactions involving Grignard, and again, designed to convert one compound to another. We'll see its effectiveness the moment we get started, and we'll learn more about these reactions. The most popular reactions will be the ones with Grignard involving carbonyl compounds. Now with carbonyl compounds, let's talk of the simplest carbonyl, simplest aldehyde, formaldehyde. Now Grignard, I told you, is going to dissociate as R minus and MgX plus, and I guess in the basic classes of organic chemistry I must have told you that the general reaction of carbonyls will be nucleophilic addition. Did I tell you that? The general reaction of carbonyls will be nucleophilic addition. In the sense, this is not electromeric effect. Before this we have seen addition on an alkene, we have seen substitution over benzene ring, and those were non-polar compounds. What we have out here is a polar compound. Polar in the sense, oxygen being more electronegative, this will always be directed towards oxygen, and you understand it's always going to exist in this form, whether it reacts or not. I hope you are following me. Whether it reacts or not, this bond is always polarized. This is not electromeric effect, this is mesomeric effect, permanent effect. Whether it goes into reaction or not, it's going to exist as this dipole. Yes or no? And when you realize that this bond in carbonyl is always polarized as C plus and O minus, it presents equal opportunity to a nucleophile or an electrophile to attack. It presents equal opportunity for a nucleophile as well as electrophile to attack. This would be the nucleophilic side of attack and this would be the electrophilic side of attack. Now suppose in general I talk about a reagent which is NuE, where this is the nucleophilic end and this is the electrophilic end. The addition reaction has to be HCO, where you know that this carbon C positive will get hold of the nucleophile. So Nu would hang in here, and this O minus would get the electrophile. So this would be the look of the final product. I don't think you have any issues calling it an addition process. We don't have any issue calling it an addition reaction, because you find this getting added up to it. You find it getting added up to the carbonyl group. Yes or no? And as I said, because this bond is polarized, this should act as the site of nucleophilic attack, this should act as the site of electrophilic attack, and once the process is over, this would be the look of the final addition product. Yes or no? So, it's an addition reaction. Now who tell me, why do we end up calling it a nucleophilic addition reaction? Because I repeat, I would want you to respond boldly, confidently. So you call it nucleophilic addition reaction because the nucleophile is going to attack. In all likelihood, the nucleophile is attacking in the rate determining step. Yes or no? That's how you have the nomenclature. You generally call it an electrophilic or nucleophilic reaction depending whether the electrophile or nucleophile attacks in the slow step. Fine. So one mechanism which could be proposed right away may be realizing its nucleophilic addition, although it's done the other way. You examine the mechanism and then you call it nucleophilic addition. But because I've already told you it's nucleophilic addition, based on that, the mechanism proposed would be this nucleophile will go and attack here, and this is expected to be, well, the slower step, rate determining step, and this to this, which is the attack of the electrophile to this negative oxygen, is going to be the faster process. And this is only why you will want to call it nucleophilic addition, because eventually you find both nucleophile and electrophile getting added up. I do spend a little time defining nucleophilic addition in carbonyls in the basic organic chemistry classes. Maybe it's been a while we have done all of that. So before we make more headway into any reaction of carbonyls, Let's very quickly revisit this thought that it's nucleophilic adhesion because we would propose, we could prove that the nucleophile will attack before the electrophile. All right. Now once I end up telling you about the nature of the reaction in carbonyls, I bring you into this confidence that most of the reaction of carbonyls, please be attentive, most reactions of carbonyls will be nucleophilic adhesion only. Most of the time the nucleophile will attack in the slow step and then the electrophile will attack in the fast step. It's going to be nucleophilic adhesion as the general reaction of carbonyls. Can you explain, going by this mechanism and this nature of carbonyls, chemical nature of carbonyls, can you explain in that case formaldehyde would be like the strongest carbonyl or the most reactive carbonyl? See if you can explain compared to other aldehydes, ketones, or in general, in general, I do speak about it in organic class 1 or class 2, aldehydes are going to be more reactive than ketones. In aldehyde ketones, in carbonyls, if nucleophilic adhesion is the general reaction, see if you could explain why aldehydes are more reactive than ketones, and among aldehydes, formaldehyde will be the most reactive. Positive charges. I repeat, you will need to be more clear, more confident. Yes, please. I will come to that part. Yes, anyone who would want to be more elaborate? In ketone there is plus I effect. Yes or no? Remember all of plus I effect, plus I, minus I? And see, you don't respond to this even. You all recall plus I effect? Recall plus I is electron repelling effect. Alkyl group will have a electron repelling effect, plus I effect. This is how an aldehyde is going to look like. This is an aldehyde. This is a ketone. We know R and R prime could be same or different. Now don't you think, if it's nucleophilic adhesion, if it's about the nucleophile adding up in the slow step, the positive charge here would decide the reactivity of the compound. Hey, if the nucleophile has to be invited in the slow step, if this carbon is more positive, it will be more inviting for the nucleophile. If this carbon is more positive, it will be more inviting for the nucleophile. It will be more facilitating for the slow step. Yes or no? So you want to recall it like anything, that if it's nucleophilic adhesion and the nucleophile is getting added up in the slow step, the positive here will decide the reactivity of the carbonyl. If it's more positive, it's more inviting for the nucleophile. The positive over this carbon will decide the reactivity of the carbonyl. And this positive will be more if there is little or no plus I effect. The difference between aldehyde and ketone is, in ketone you will have plus I effect from two directions. Now plus I effect is going to decrease this positive charge. Realize, plus I effect from alkyl group is going to decrease this positive charge. In ketone it is going to happen from both ends. In aldehyde it is going to happen from one end only, because the other end is armed with hydrogen. So in ketones, plus I from two directions is going to decrease this positive charge more than in aldehydes, where there is plus I effect only from one direction. That's going to make aldehydes more reactive than ketones. With lesser minus I effect, the positive charge in aldehydes over here is going to be more defined, more prominent. Fine. And it's going to be maximum defined and most prominent in formaldehyde, where there is no plus I effect. Now this was the electronic justification, that formaldehyde having no alkyl group and there's no plus I effect is going to have this carbon most positive, and more positive will mean it's more inviting for the nucleophile. Now this was the electronic justification, and you were coming up with this steric front. So sterically you find this more free. Now he also has a valid point. Formaldehyde will be most reactive electronically. And I hope you figure out the difference when I say electronically and sterically, because when I talk of plus I minus I effect or resonance, we're talking about charge distribution and charge separation or charge dilution. So electronically, I find this positive to be most prominent in formaldehyde, making it electronically most reactive. Sterically, you can't have smaller groups than hydrogen. You can't have smaller groups than hydrogen. Yes or no? Also, realizing the fact that in the course of the mechanism, and you need to agree to this carbon sp2, so it's sp2 to begin with, and the intermediate, this carbon is sp3. So again, realizing the fact that sp2 carbon is becoming sp3, and tell me, sp2 to sp3, bond angle is going to increase or decrease? Decrease. sp2 to sp3 bond angle is going to decrease. So it's not about how sterically free this carbon is, it's also about realizing that as this process is happening, the arms are coming closer. As it's becoming sp2 to sp3, in nucleophilic addition the arms are becoming closer, they're getting closer. So electronically, the positive is most defined in formaldehyde, even sterically, with hydrogen as the smallest arms possible, minimum or no steric hindrance. And again, given the fact in course of the mechanism you'll find these arms coming closer, courtesy sp3 carbon becoming sp2 carbon, sp2 carbon becoming sp3 carbon. Sterically also, this is going to be most favorably disposed towards nucleophilic adhesions. That's going to make this a very reactive aldehyde, a very reactive carbonyl. Got me? We'll talk more about nucleophilic adhesion. The idea right now was to just give you a quick recap on things which I would have said before in basic organic chemistry classes. I wanted you to again come to terms with nucleophilic adhesion. More on nucleophilic adhesion when we take up nucleophilic adhesion in general. Right now we're talking about a reagent which will attack involving nucleophilic adhesion. Again, I'm happy some of you could respond why it's called nucleophilic adhesion. Some of you could think about the electronic and steric factors. But I would be happy if you could answer a few more questions. I repeat, more about the mechanism will be reserved for the classes in aldehydes ketones. We will be speaking at length about nucleophilic adhesion. Let me tell you, basically, most of the times we are talking about a mechanism. I'm going to limit it to proposing a mechanism and giving you facts, evidences which will authenticate the mechanism. See, I've done it in the past using different isotopes involving kinetics, experimental kinetic studies, isotopic effects, working with different solvents. I've always tried to justify the mechanism, or explaining it by regiochemistry or stereochemistry. So the basic procedure is proposing a mechanism and then justifying the mechanism. And the entire course of proposing and justifying a mechanism is always about how it's happening. And our requirements most of the times are fulfilled by knowing how it's happening. But the next layer of curiosity, the next layer of understanding would pose questions like why it's happening this way. Now these are two different fronts altogether. You would most of the times be happy knowing, and I said most of our requirements will be met in the process where we know how it's happening and we are able to justify that this is the mechanism we propose. In all likelihood it stands true to different evidences, different experimental results. But as I said, another layer of curiosity, and you start thinking, all right, it's happening this way, you know how it's happening, but then you start questioning why it's happening this way. Because it's not like an alkene. In an alkene I could tell you electromagnetic effect, but at the end of it we know it's a pi bond. So a pi bond will invite an electrophile only. It moves to the left or right, its loose association of electrons will invite an electrophile only, and then it carries on to an electrophilic adhesion in alkene. In benzene ring, I have taught you about Fieldcraft reaction. We realized why it was substitution and not addition, because the aromaticity needed to be retained. But yet again, so many pi bonds rich with electron density, and it's expected that an electrophile will attack. In previous mechanisms, we're very confident, we're more defined why an electrophile or nucleophile is attacking in the slow or the first step. In this case, right away you get a positive and negative. You have a positive and negative side, you have an electrophilic as well as nucleophilic site of attack, and it's a permanent change. You don't get formaldehyde in this way, in this form, you get formaldehyde in this form only. And as I said, see if you can explain not only how it's happening, but why it's happening this way. Why the nucleophile goes first and then the electrophile goes. Maybe I would help you in the sense, I told you with nucleophile attacking, what's the intermediate? Although it doesn't happen this way, but a possibility where the electrophile would have attacked first over this oxygen negative, and maybe I would draw the corresponding intermediate and see if that helps. This is how it's happening. The nucleophile attacks first, but see if you can answer. It's more stable. Which way? The octet is not fulfilled here. The octet is not fulfilled here. That way it's not stable. See if you're getting me. Although no one would in all likelihood inquire you why it's happening this way. The questions will be restricted to how it's happening. We would know more about nucleophilic adhesion, will present more facts, more theories authenticating this mechanism. Still time to go, we start doing that. But we could also think of why it's happening this way. Because if you attach the nucleophile, at least you find all the octets fulfilled. Had it begun with the attack of an electrophile, this would have been the corresponding intermediate, and here you find this carbon electron deficient. So that's a very logical argument. Why a nucleophile attacks first, and why it's nucleophilic adhesion and not electrophilic adhesion. Might not be very relevant to our requirements, but good for the sake of understanding. Again, I don't want to talk more about nucleophilic adhesion because I want to teach Grignard now. And if I start speaking more about nucleophilic adhesion, we would be heading towards the reactions of aldehydes ketones, where this would just reduce to one particular example. We want to spend more time talking about Grignard reactions, so we would limit it to this point, and then we would see how a Grignard would react with carbonyls. How a Grignard would say react with the simplest but the most reactive carbonyl, which is formaldehyde. And going by this general template which we have now, we'll always want the nucleophilic part of the reagent to attack first and the electrophilic part to take over in the second or the fast step. In Grignard, we have already been able to identify the nucleophilic and the electrophilic part. And don't you think it means when a Grignard, where this alkyl or the aryl end would act as the nucleophile, this would be the slow step, say, forming HCH, O minus and R here. MgX would stick to O minus, but this would be the second step, and if this is the final addition product between say formaldehyde and Grignard, it's the attack of nucleophile R minus followed by the attack of the electrophile, which is MgX plus. Yes or no? Yes or no? And this would be the look of the final product, addition product. While doing all of it, you keep it away from water. You know why? While doing all of it, you keep it away from water or even air containing moisture, because of strong affinity of Grignard to react with water, and the entire plot will be lost. The Grignard will be lost. It will react with water forming RH, alkane. So far, you keep it away from water and moisture. You take out this addition product. You take out this addition product, and then